Brothers and sisters, I feel very, very honored to present to you tonight. There's no place to be like among brothers and sisters, because that's when you feel safe. Well, I have lived in Massachusetts in the US for some time. I've been involved in working with General Electric as a controller, Accam Biosciences, and some other companies. I've been involved in 2 startup companies, biotech companies here in Massachusetts. One was purchased by General Electric, that's how I got there, and the other one by Sartorius. I've also written a book, We Want Solutions, because that's what we're looking for. And that should probably come out very soon. Well, today's question, very obvious question, but much more complicated. And in trying to take us all through this journey, I chose to go through the PowerPoint presentation, because then that will give us some focus. And apart from that, we'll be able to follow it. Because if I start to talk, I might digress and go to other areas.
I'll tell you again, I think you unmute yourself, please. We cannot hear you.
Oh, you cannot?
No, I can hear you. You are fine.
No,
Oh, okay.
he's fine.
Okay,
I can hear him as well.
Okay. So I'm going to pull up the PowerPoint, and then we're going to walk through it. And if at any point anyone has a question and you want to stop, you can stop me. Or when we get to the end, we can also go through that. So let me pull that up. Okay, so if I can get the sharing, then I'll be able to pull it up. If I'm authorized to share.
Okay, 1 second. Please, let's continue while I work for sharing, because I'm using my phone.
Okay, so before I get the permission to share, I'll just have to say a very short story. It's a quick one, and it has something to do with what we are going to talk about today, or the journey we are going to embark on. And it's about a small village in Africa. And an NGO, so some philanthropists went to the village, and what they realized was that the women at the village had to walk miles to go and fetch water. And I've said this story in other places as well. They had to walk for miles to go and fetch water. And they said, this is terrible. I mean, what if something happens to them? They have to make all this journey to go and fetch water. So why don't we dig a borehole in the center of the village so that these women do not have to walk all the way to the riverside with its attendant problems and dangers? So they can just have water, easy access to water in the village. So they went ahead, they dug a borehole, and they put a water pump there so the villagers could get water. But what they realized was that the women continued to go to the riverside. They would pass right by the tap and go to the riverside, walk miles. And they were wondering, what is wrong here? We thought we were helping out. We've given them water. Why are they still going all the way to the riverside? So one of them said, well, why don't we ask them? And that they did. Only to come and realize that the time these women go to the riverside to fetch water was the time they socialized. That was the time they could get away from the kids and the family and be by themselves, discuss each other's problems and everything else. So it was very important to them, so that it wasn't just going to fetch water, but that trip had a lot of things to go along with it. The long and short of it is that if you want to know what somebody wants, you ask them. Don't assume. And that, I want it to be in the background as we go through today's journey. Okay, I still don't have the sharing. The question is what the diaspora expects from Africa. Who are the diaspora? The African Union's definition is that the African diaspora as it is comprises of people of African origin living outside the continent irrespective of their citizenship and nationality. They form the diaspora. Their makeup, they are very diverse. They are multifaceted. Multi-generational demography spanning every continent and socioeconomic status. And you can break them into two. We have the diasporas with family roots in Africa. I'm a typical example. And then we have descendants of enslaved Africans without any family connections. So these are two types of diasporas that we have. So as we can see, their expectations and their needs may be just as diverse and varied. The next thing that, as we put that aside, the next thing I want us to look at is, okay.
Okay, sorry, now you are co-host.
Okay, thank you so much. So the next thing is, as Africa first, what do we want? It is when you know what you want that you can call others to help you. Then you can direct and you can help. But if you do not know what you want, why are you engaging them in the first place? And from my point, what Africa needs is a transition from commodity-dominated to high-value-added economies. Because one thing we have to bear in mind is, if Africa is not strong, you of African descent, anywhere, will not be strong. Africa has to be strong. And then it buttresses or becomes the root for you. And for Africa to transition, we need a strategy that involves innovation and technology. It has to be innovation and technologically driven. That is how we can transition from what we have now to a value-added economy. Xi Jinping called talent because for us to get into innovation and technology, we need talent. We need talent. And by the end of this presentation, I will pull up one person and we can see the extent to which one person can impact a whole nation. We need talent to transition. The other thing I'll go to is we've just talked about what we need. What do we have? What we have is large, untapped resources. We have resources in abundance. But if you do not have talent, your resources would not do much. If you do have talent, potentially everything around you is a resource. We have to remember that it's talent, it's innovation that created machines that needed oil. And that's what made oil important. So if you have talent, everything around you is a potential resource. The other thing we have is population, a very young population. 60% of our population is under 25 years. And by 2050, 2 out of every 5 children born is expected to be born in Africa. That's a very young population. It's a blessing, but it's equally a danger. If you don't have jobs for them, if you don't have anything to keep them engaged and busy, they would attack the very society in which they are growing in. So we have both sides of the line. What is the diaspora doing? The diaspora is doing a lot. Currently, remittances. Close to about $40 billion is coming into Africa from the diaspora. We are not actually seeing much of it. It goes to families, little businesses, and so on. So it's coming every year. But we don't have that organization to be able to harness its potential. It's just going everywhere. People are doing what they want to do with it because it's their money. There are joint business ventures. A lot of diasporas are opening businesses, small businesses, big businesses. They are teaming with people on the continent to work, but they are on an individual basis. There is technological transfer in some of these transactions. There's cultural exchange. We have seen that. Religious networks. There are churches around who are connected to some diaspora churches here in America, in Brazil, all around. And there are institutional linkages as well. So these things are already happening. But it hasn't changed much. It has not transitioned us from commodity to value-added economies. It hasn't. These are some current outreach that is going on by some of the countries. I could not list all of them here, but South Africa has SANSA, right? They have a network to gather skills abroad. And they are currently, I don't know whether they've done that yet, they are trying to bring in corporations and so on to link them. Guinea established a diaspora network across 110 countries and 50 states in the USA, and even conducted a census of Guineans abroad. So Guinea is doing all of this. Kenya, they created a database of Kenyans abroad, the diaspora skills inventory. Zimbabwe created a human capital website to attract its diaspora. So they are targeting their own diaspora. Namibia mapped its diaspora communities with a view of assessing how they could fill labor needs back home. Tunisia, they created a consolidated online portal for Tunisians abroad, which combines various services for its diaspora. Right. So we see all this. Then there's Congo, Nigeria, Algeria, Ghana. We know of Ghana's year of return, whether they are trying to go towards mainly tourism. That's how they want to bring the diaspora in. We are yet to see what the final result would be. But that still does not move Ghana from commodities into the knowledge-based or the value-added economy. It hasn't. What do we have to do in able to harness the diaspora? Because we need them. The diaspora is the key to Africa's development. Africa has had the luck that you have a diaspora that was mainly trained and educated, not by Africa's money. They are there. A lot of them are willing to come home. But African countries need to create success paths for these diasporas, skills, finances, and everything else that would come home. Unless those success paths are created, a lot of people are not going to come because they cannot bear 100% risk. First, we need to identify our own goals. What are Africa's goals? Or country by country, what are the goals? What do we have to attend to achieving these goals? If it so happens that the goal is to advance in technology, then the diaspora policy, the policy we design, has to emphasize knowledge and skills that members of the target diaspora should have. So that means that if we identify the goals and it is technology, we are going to target the sort of diaspora we want to get from outside into Africa. It's not just open. It is open for everybody to come, but there's going to be special effort in targeting those people who will feel the needs of where we want to go to. And they are there in the numbers. The goals should be an integral part of the development plan. Sound development strategies in place to invest in education, promote science and technology, build infrastructure, and foster entrepreneurship. When the Republic of Korea and Taiwan China, when they targeted their diaspora and they went after them, they had something to put on the table. They made them know that this is where our development is going. This is what we are doing. This is where we have invested. And this is how you can come in. We have to show the diaspora. We have to show to the diaspora that this is what we have in the pipeline. Then they see where they fit in. There has to be basic elements of good governance. And this must be integrated into development planning. And when I'm talking about basic elements of good governance, we are talking about accountability. There has to be transparency, right? There has to be rule of law, right? These are some elements of good governance that should be present. You cannot bring a diaspora, give them an assignment, and then they realize that the purchasing is structured in such a way that the purchasing director only buys from their cousin. You cannot do that. Diaspora cannot come in. We have to know that they're coming from every part of the world. They are used to ways of doing things. So you cannot bring people into a situation and the environment does not help. And because of that, we need to engage diaspora during planning stages. And that goes back to the story that I told earlier, the women in the village and the water. African governments have to start engaging the diaspora in the planning stages. Because again, the key to Africa's transition is the diaspora. If you stand in front of a university in most African countries today, and the kids are graduating and coming out, and you want to get kids that are coming out with the skill set to come and innovate and to create jobs, you'll find very few, if any. And so to leapfrog this skill, Africa needs to tap into the diaspora because it is there. Mexico established a consultative council of the Institute of Mexicans Abroad. And this council makes recommendations to the government about diaspora policies. Of course, Mexico has more, their diaspora, most of them are here in the US, so they can easily gather them. But unlike countries like Ghana, our diaspora is very dispersed all across the world. A little here, a little there, a little here, a little there. But these are things that needs to be done. We have to know the diaspora. We have to know the diaspora. If you want to give something to somebody, it's good for you to know them. And it goes back to the women in the village. Lack of information on the diaspora is a frequently cited obstacle in developing effective policies. We have to search for diaspora that fits the set goals through one, comprehensive data collection. So African countries need to collect data on the diaspora abroad, not just diaspora from the country, but diasporas, the two types of diasporas I talked about, right? Those with family roots and those of African descent, enslaved African descent, African countries or Africa has to go out there and put in the work of collecting data, because you have to know them through census. We have to map the locations where these diasporas are. Because remember, we have set a goal. You set an agenda. Africa wants to transition, right, from one economy to a value-added economy, right? Commodity economy to a value-added economy. You need technology, you need innovation. So you need to discover those diasporas that have those skill sets and go after them. We should have an inventory compilation of skills and experience. We should be able to know that the African diasporas, maybe in Germany, the majority of them are doctors. The majority of them are mechanics. We should know that. We should know where to find them. And that comes from collecting data. The next thing is to hold forums for discussion. What does the diaspora have to offer? Right? The diaspora is there, but what do they have to offer? And what are they willing to offer? The fact that they have does not mean they are willing to. And why are they not willing to offer? Is there something that is a hindrance? If you take away that hindrance, would that put them in the position to offer all? And what do they expect from Africa? And this goes to the question that started it all. If you know them, and you know them well, you have a good sense of their expectation. And once that is done, there has to be a reconciliation, because there will be different and divergent views. We have to remember, Africa's diaspora is all across the globe, over 100 million. They're everywhere. But we target those that can transition Africa. We go after them. There will be differences because they have different backgrounds. And then we start to reconcile that. You can start from two ends of the spectrum and meet somewhere in the middle. That works for all. Trust. If you want somebody to live the comfort of the life they have known, they need to trust you to give that life up and sacrifice and come along on your journey. So we need to create a welcoming environment for engagement in development activity. A diaspora cannot come, be given a position, and realize that they cannot do anything because their hands are tied. Because the person they report to would not allow them to do anything. In the end, they are frustrated, they pack their luggages and go back to wherever they came from. There has to be transparency in regulations and licensing requirements and a more consistent application of property law. Why would somebody create something knowing very well that the next person will just copy it and there's no protection? We have to make the laws work if we actually want to transition. Why do you have to buy a plot of land and spend the next 17 years in court fighting for a land that you own? Why do you live in your house? And because somebody is in the government, they come with papers and they say it's their land. They don't have any papers, and you are tossed off the land. Good governance and rule of law are important in establishing trust. So that means we have to develop sound legal, regulatory, and institutional frameworks. Let us remember, places like China, they put the foundation down before they went out to get the diaspora. And to do that, we need to put the foundation down and bring something to the table when we are recruiting the diaspora. We have to encourage joint diaspora government decision-making. Israel has done this very well. It goes all the way down to the community level. They are engaged all the way down in what is done, investments that are needed at the community level. There has to be a positive link between privileges, for diaspora and the impact of their engagement. That has been found, right? When there's a positive link, the impact of the diaspora is great. And that's been confirmed. We have to offer dual citizenship. And it has to be a process that is not onerous. It builds trust. It builds trust. The diaspora coming in feels ownership. They feel it's their home. African countries have to be prepared to do that. Some have already started doing it. There has to be special visas for scientists, entrepreneurs, leading experts, and science and technology industries. Because those are the targets.
Okay, so Dr. Narh.
Yes, sir.
We want you to be wrapping up because we want the audience, the participants to be able to interact with you, ask questions from what they have heard you understand. So yeah, please go ahead. But if we get to the end for us so that you can have enough time to interact with you, we okay. Like that aspect as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so the last one is recruiting the diaspora. So once we are ready, that means we've established trust. We know who they are. We know what our objectives are, and we've articulated it. And we go after them. You know, you offer them signing bonuses. You offer them enough salaries, because some of the reasons why diasporas go back is funding, income. So you have to make it comfortable for them. You offer scholarships to students and faculty, especially students. You offer scholarships to them to start coming to school in Africa so that they get used to it. And the last one here, this man here, Queen Shusen, this man led China's entire space program. Okay, this man was at the heart of America's space endeavor. He was deported, he went to China. He was able to build missiles. Today, China has nuclear capable missiles. This man did everything in their aerospace program is attributable to the effort of this man. And he was a diaspora. And that's why I say the diaspora is the key to Africa's transition. And that's the end. So I'll take your questions.
Thank you very, very much. So you've heard Dr. Victor Accam, and he's done so well. So ladies and gentlemen, the time is now up for us to interact with him. If you have any question, if you have any clarification, if you yourself have something to add to what doctor has said, the floor is open now. Okay, so the floor is open for conversational interactions with doctor. You just put your hand up and then we'll call you to bring a submission. But before we do that, quickly, let me introduce those people who are on the call. So Key Mama is the president of the National Ghana Parade Council in New York. He's on call. We also have Mr. Jacob Kutufam. He works with Ghana Atomic Energy. He's on call. Jeff, I know Jeff is on call. I'm here to establish who exactly he is. Mr. Johnson Corte is also on call. Mr. Michael Kunedu is an agricultural extension officer at the Ministry of Food and Agriculture. Is on call. Mr. Michael Ope, I know he's a teacher at Yilo Krobo Senior High School. He's also on call. Mr. P.C. Asante, this man is doing great and mighty things with lawn tennis in Africa. I mean, the biggest ever, and it's going to be located or sited in Ghana. I'm so happy to have him on call. We have Mr. Peter Tekpe. Mr. Peter Tekpe is the head of treasury for West Africa and North Africa for Puma Oil. He's also on call. Mr. Richard Ahlija is also on call. Mr. Shandov Mensah is deputy coordinating director for Yilo Krobo Municipal Assembly, is on call. Madam Tanisha Webb, she's the CEO of Urban Chicks Travel and Tour Planning Company, is also on call. Mr. Theo A is on call. Madam Veronica Ramos, a former colleague of the Quadastro Cultural College, is also on call. And I have Mr. Philip Bafo, Fifi Bafo, of a very innovative man, is working on a project called Hype Your Region. He's also on call. JBS is on call, and V10. I'm here to establish who exactly these great people are. But for now, we have others who have also come because of time. We couldn't introduce them. We have Madame Adesua from all the way from Canada, and then Dr. Desiree also from UK. All of them were on call, but they had to leave to join other conversations elsewhere. So we still have Dr. Victor Accam, excellent academician, and he's so good in what he does. He's here to have a conversation with us on what the diaspora expects of Africa. And he has raised very, very fantastic issues. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to ask questions. So if you have any question or contribution, the time is up. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are waiting for you to have interactions with Dr. Accam. So if you have any submission, any question or anything, please put up your hand. Let's call you to do so. Okay, so Doctor, before someone comes, I'm still interested in the issue of trust. The issue of trust is very, very important. It's one thing that I believe the diaspora expects of us, because they come here, they speak, and they will hear the accent, and we double the price of items for them. That is another dimension of, although you did not talk about it directly, but that is also one dimension of trust the diaspora is not really happy with when they come to Africa. And the intellectual property aspect you mentioned, I really love it, land acquisition issues, and the issue of also trying to attract the diaspora with scholarship. Can you please kind of try to explain that side a bit for us, the trust aspect, because it's a real issue. And we have a lot of the diasporans also on this call. So if we can address that issue properly. Thank you.
Okay. I'll start from the scholarship side. Right now, we have scholarships that we send people abroad. And when we send them abroad, they are trained to solve the problems abroad. When they come home, they don't get what they need. The equipment are not there. They've been taught in a different environment how to solve those problems. So they pack up and go back. They go back because they think there are better opportunities for them to earn. But on the other hand, when you offer scholarships for people to come in, they bring diversity. If you offer scholarship to a professor to come in, that professor would teach so many kids what you would otherwise have sent only one person. So you end up teaching 100 people who will be taught how to solve problems in their environment. Giving scholarship to kids, you start them early if you want to get them. You give scholarships, they come to school, they get used, they make friends, they go back, they grow up. It's very easy for them to transition. So you prepare them. You offer those scholarships to diaspora kids to come to Africa. That's another way of pulling them in. In terms of the way we have opened diaspora is almost like a free-for-all. Diasporas come and there's no set agenda. The way I look at it is this: if we want to transition, the diasporas have to be targeted. We have to target diasporans with special skills and talents, because those are the ones that we can get into Africa, and then they would open the way. They will create value. They will create jobs for others to come in. But if you bring people, everybody can come in, yes. But if the first people who come in are people who only have to hold phones and be taking YouTube in order to make a living out of that, they can't stay long. That is why a lot of diasporas come back. They don't even have it to start with. So it has to be targeted. Bring the very highly educated, talented ones. They are the ones that can change Africa. And when they come, you give them all the comforts that they had here. You protect them, they stay in gated communities because they are there for a purpose, and the purpose is to change the economy. They are there to innovate, they are there to create, they are there to educate. So they are very targeted, and they should answer to the very top of government. And that is what China did. China brought them in, and these people were given responsibilities plus authority. And they reported to the very highest echelon of the CCP. That is how they changed China. We have more diasporas than China ever had. We have more to tap into, but we have to do these things.
Wow. Thank you, Papa. I've seen Mr. Ahlijah has put up his hand. Mr. Ahlijah, can you please unmute yourself and come through with your contribution, please?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for this session, and I want to extend my felicitations to everybody who is on this platform, this event, and especially my regards to my friend, Dr. Victor Accam. His presentation is very insightful. I would want to say that these are sort of discussions that we need to bring to roundtable conversations. And those of us who have found ourselves in the diaspora have a lot to offer our country. Like he has emphasized, the narrative in Ghana is very frustrating, not only in Ghana, but also in the African continent when it comes to diasporan relocating to offer whatever they have acquired in diaspora. Call it not only in America or Europe, but also in other smaller countries or developing economies like India, Brazil, Malaysia, fishing, oil, palm, development and all that. You return and you are confronted with the kind of inertia and unwillingness on the part of policymakers to admit you back into their fold. We have no reasons why those things happen. And like you said, we quickly roll back to where we came from. But other countries don't do so. They deliberately plan for their brains to go to other countries to train and deliberately return them properly received and put in sectors to make impact. China, India, the Arab countries and all that. Come to America, be it architecture studies, be it engineering, chemical engineering, be it education in whatever field, civil engineering. Look at our roads. We have very good engineers, civil engineers in this country who build, who are in contracts with their states, their governments in this country. But ask them whether they would want to return to Ghana. They will say no. So for me, this kind of discussion needs to be handled by all of us, those of us who really are committed to see a change in our country, to bring our minds together from time to time and build a certain force to sit with policymakers in Ghana. Normally those things are flavored and are obscured by the politics of either you belong here, you don't belong here, belong among us or not. But if we can bring them to the table and then have conversation with them, especially when they are coming to the diaspora, they are visiting to beg for money and all that, or do one thing or the other, there's a need for them to also respect us and we also respecting them. I know that, look, we can't do it all. We want to help. We are not asking for your money. Some of us are not looking for the money. We just want to volunteer so that we see a school develop. Look at Patrick Awuah of us as Ashashi College. He came from here, he went in, opportunity, in spite of everything, he was able to break through. A lot of such brains are here in all fields. So for me, the solution for the motherland in terms of these discussions and narratives that we are talking about will need a dual relationship where those who have the power in Ghana and those who have the brains in the diaspora will have to sit down and plan and develop a certain concept towards returning us to help our brothers and sisters who are there, even if it's on regular basis, maybe a quarterly or on a yearly basis. That is fine. That is the only way we can also have a say and be part of whatever development agenda that is going on in Ghana. So it's something that we don't want to kill, started, and then just allow it to die tomorrow. But I believe that it will be difficult for Dr. Accam alone, but facilitators of this platform will need to lift it up for all of us, for many people to be part of it, and let's keep pushing for Ghana to see the need and to bring brains back to Ghana as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Papa Richard, Mr. Richard Ahija. I'll be glad if you could leave your contact with us at the chat box so we can get back to you. We really, really appreciate your in-depth conversation or contribution. Thank you very, very much. I have seen another hand up, and is for Mr. PC Asante. Please go ahead, sir.
Good evening, everyone. I am very, very impressed with the presentation that we have here tonight. One of the most impressive things is the area of trust and intellectual property, because that's a critical piece for me and my colleagues. What I want to ask the doctor is, what are his suggestions in cultivating a fiduciary relationship so that the issue of trust, the issue of intellectual properties, the issues of investor relationships can be seamlessly addressed or with less discomfort, so that project completion is acquired?
Thank you for that question. That's a great question. What I've noticed over time is that you can do all what you want in Africa, and a political actor can subvert it all. Just like Mr. Richard has just said, you either belong here or you belong there. They see you as not belonging, and they sabotage and bring down everything you risked to build. And so for things to change and to have an impact, you need to have a seat at the table. And you ask for that seat when you have better leverage. When politicians come out, come and ask for money, to come and ask for help because they are out of government and they are the most vulnerable, that is when you enter into agreements with them, that these things should be enshrined. If they cannot, you can't support them. You take your money somewhere else. And that is how we have to start. We have to start by getting involved and getting a seat at the table. If we have to contribute and own a seat of somebody who votes at the table, that is what you do. I will not be surprised if the Lebanese Association or the Indian Association have seats at the table that work for them tirelessly day and night. And they get their job done. Who doesn't have seat at the table? Us. Because we're not involved. We have to be involved. We have to target seats, and we have to own those seats at the table, and they work for us. That is when these things can be protected. I hope I answered the question.
Yes, somewhat. I mean, the acquisition of those seats, the maintenance of those seats, the cultivation of those seats will still require the fiduciary relationship with the represented agent, who would then act on our behalf in a trustful way.
Absolutely. And what it is that it comes to a principal-agent relationship.
Right.
Okay? If the principal-agent relationship is strong, they will act on your behalf. If they don't, you put somebody else there.
Okay.
You hold the keys.
Okay, so thank you so much. We still have some of the colleagues. If you want to make a statement, and we respect all the views we express here, it's a family conversation. It's a cordial one. Whatever you say, even if you want to say in a language, we can still interpret. So please, everybody is welcome. I can also see my colleague from University of Ghana, Madam Nashirata Dauda. Please, you are welcome to this call. And all the way from the Republic of Sierra Leone, we have Queen Janet Farmer also on call. I have another a student from the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology in the person of Mr. Ajay Yeboah Stephen, also on call. Thank you so much for coming. And like I said, there's a number here, B10. I don't really know the person, so if you can help us to know you, and Theo A will appreciate. Like our speaker rightly said, in the People's Republic of China, if you go to the diaspora, especially on a scholarship, and you come back, automatically you become a member of the China Scholars Union. And this is the organization that advises the president. It is not the Council of State members, people who are too tired to do something. These are students who have gone out to learn. The moment you come, you are a member of that union, and they play a very, very strategic role, like our speaker has just said. And I think it's about time we do same. And I believe we can do it because Osadifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah brought with him 2 members of the diaspora. I'm talking about George Padmore and W. Du Bois. And he did mighty things standing on the shoulders of these two giants. So what Mr. Richard Ahija said, and what our speaker has also said tonight, they are all on point. And I believe Mr. Ahija was even talking about us designing a framework, a concept that will allow the decision makers in Africa and the diaspora to sit around the same table around every time. And others are doing it. If you go to the Hebrew community, they have the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society doing magnificent things. If you go to the Lebanese, they are doing the same thing. And that's why they are moving forward. We have the institutions, but we are not working with the institutions. Do we still have somebody who has something to say? So we can bring our conversation to an end. It is 9:16 p.m. in Ghana now. I believe it should be 5:15 in America, Canada time now. So I can also see Nene Bueno Lamte is in charge of the radio station for the Accra, Ho Technical University. I've seen him also on call. Mr. Nene Bueno Lamte, you are please welcome on board. Do we have anybody has any contribution? Madam Tanisha Webb, do you have something to tell us before we go? Madam Nashirata Dauda, do you have something to say? The women, I think your voices are getting lost. Do you have something to say?
Yes, Mr. Francis.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much for the opportunity. In fact, you have always invited me for these functions. Unfortunately, I'm unable to always attend. And this evening, I came in quite late as well. And so, but the little I heard, it's been so inspiring. And I would like to say that going forward, definitely I'm going to be part of these discussions. And so it's a very insightful thing. And it's a good thing you are doing. Let's keep it up, because we really need to bridge that gap between the diaspora and then the Africans that are resident in the various countries, because it's the only way that we can actually spur development in the various African countries. When we recognize their contributions, and then the contributions each of us can actually put on the table, so that as Sarah was talking about having a seat at the table, if we don't even have that relationship among ourselves as diaspora and then the ones in the continent, how do we then begin to have a conversation as to how to have a table at a seat? We can't really do that. And so we need really to come together so that first of all, once we are together, then we can actually talk about having a seat at the table. Then we can all win together. So thank you so much for this insightful conversation. I'm really glad to be part of it. Thank you.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, Madam Nashirata is a candidate for Master of Philosophy, Migration Studies, University of Ghana. Thank you so much for your contribution. Mr. Stephen Yeboah, AJ, I saw your hand up a while ago. Do you still want to tell us something? Please go ahead.
Please, yes. Please, in fact, today has been the first day of attending this diaspora meeting, and in fact, it's a wake-up call for all the people in Ghana and the youth in the country, because there's a lot of problems that the youth in the country is facing. And the only thing that can bring the delightful and insightful things from the youth, or us from the youth in the diaspora, And so from what doctor said, that we need to consult, or we need to bring the gap by consulting the lawmakers. And also we need to do things well so that when the diaspora, they are able to come to this country, they'll be able to ascertain or do things that will help the country. And so we, the youth, also rise up, also the diaspora, they are in the country, we'll be able to help up so that we bring the gap between we and the diaspora, so that our country too will develop, so that we'll be able to get something out of it, so that the vision and mission the country forward.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much for all this thing that you've done. In fact, it is a good thing in its time, and we can never ever do away with such things. God bless you all for organizing this.
Thank you, Mr. J. Yabua Stephen, all the way from Kumasi, Ashanti region of the Republic of Ghana. I have also seen my mentor on call, Mr. Simon Appiah. Mr. Simon Appiah, you are warmly welcome on board. So let me go back to Dr. Victor Narh Accam for his closing remarks. The conversation has been very, very inspiring, I must say. So let's go back to him for his final word.
Once again, I feel really honored to be among all of you. And I'm truly, truly grateful for all the questions, comments that you have made. Like I said, being among you is being among family. I hope, this continues, and then eventually, and in the top of our mind, we realize that it is the diaspora that can transition us. We have not built the capacities in Africa yet. The diaspora can bridge that capacity, and we can leapfrog into changing our economies by taking what the diaspora has to offer, engaging them, and changing our lives. Once again, I'm very, very grateful to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Dr. Victor Narh Accam, on behalf of the management of Holistic Migration Consult and Key Mama Foundation. We would like to say a very, very big thank you for honoring this invitation. In fact, when the Queen Mothers of Adan saw your name, they said, oh my God, you have selected the right person to handle this particular topic. We all believe in you, and we believe in what you have delivered tonight. We really appreciate your time and your insightful presentation or conversation tonight. Thank you so much, and may God richly bless you in everything that you do. And ladies and gentlemen, this is what we call the Diaspora Motherland Conversation. And we do it in the last Saturday of every month. This is what we're trying to do to generate ideas and mobilize resources to enhance the relationship between Africans in the motherland and Africans in the diaspora. Other people have done it. If we talk about people who have suffered in this migration, forced migration and all of that, then we are talking about the Africans, we are talking about the Hebrews, and probably the Lebanese. But some of them have turned it to be good for them. Africa, we are yet to find our feet, and the time is now. And the conversation, it's our own conversation. It's about you, it's about me, and it's about the next generation. So we would like to encourage each and every one of you that every last Saturday of every month, just reserve that for us and come here, let's have conversation, because your views are important to us. Thank you so, so much. Without wasting much time, let me look out for somebody who has not. Okay, Mr. Michael Opie, you have not spoken today. So can we have you to say the closing prayer for us? Mr. Simon Kwame Appiah, thank you so much. It's unfortunate there was a mix-up in the time. In some document it was 9 p.m. Ghana time, and I believe that's why you joined the call late. But in that notwithstanding, we still appreciate you coming on the call. And we hope to see you in the next March edition, that's a June edition, where we are going to have Dr. Sumne, a fantastic man, to come on the call. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you too.
Thank you. Okay, so Mr. Michael Ope, Yiloklu Senior High School, fantastic teacher. We respect what you're doing. Recently, you were part of the team that donated computers to the school to set up its computer library. We know what you guys are doing in the motherland to make things work. Can we have you say the closing prayer for us, please?
Let us pray. Let us pray.
Okay.
Our Father in heaven, we are grateful for all that you are doing in our lives. Father, Lord, we thank you for Mother Ghana. We thank you for the lives of all those in Ghana and those living abroad. Father, Lord, it is by your doing that you brought us together. Father, Lord, we pray that you strengthen us. You give us ideas. You bring opinions together so that in the end, Ghana will be a better place. We also pray that though there is an act that spurs out the Diaspora's Act, but we are praying that you will help us, our policy makers, so that if there is any revision, that will bring everybody on board to make Ghana a better place. We pray in the name of God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.